Vancouver is completely different from the east coast of Canada. It has a lot of tourism, it's very expensive, it has a tech scene, economic development here is a lot greater, but there's a lot of things I didn't understand about Vancouver. What I found was that the income of Vancouver isn't significantly higher than other big cities of Canada. It's actually less salary than Calgary and Toronto. So let's say you are a lawyer who works at Fasken. In Toronto, you would be making 220 to 130K. In Calgary, you would be making 210K. But in Vancouver, you would only be making 180K for more hours than you did in Calgary. I find that very strange because the cost of living in Vancouver is higher than Toronto, but people aren't making as much. So a lot of my friends there, even though they were making low six figures, they were literally living paycheck to paycheck. And those that are making less than that, they are barely scraping by, and they can't afford to live in Vancouver itself and have to live in the very far suburbs like Langley, New Westminster, and commute an hour to an hour and a half downtown. The people in Vancouver are very different. They're definitely a bit more vain, and I'm not talking about everyone. There's just a bit of a superficial vibe to the city. It's almost kind of like the LA of Canada, where there's a lot of influencers or girls that are trying to grow their Instagram accounts. There's a lot of people who wants to go into acting, which makes sense because there is a huge acting scene there. Ryan Reynolds is there, and a lot of the movies that were labeled as Seattle were actually filmed in Vancouver. Well, I personally don't work in the space, but I work in tech, and the tech scene there is very interesting. It's different from Toronto. Toronto has a huge tech scene too, but you go to like specific networking events. But in Vancouver, networking events are a bit more unique. You meet people through doing tech things like, rock climbing or dance classes. But I found my community of tech people in this underground, decentral Vancouver hub, and it's very dingy, but it's very authentic, and I really like that. And like the smartest people come there, and they have like these weekly presentations. And I met like the best people there and made a lot of great friends. So I love that. But overall, Vancouver is definitely not as friendly as Calgary or Toronto. And I think that's because of a West Coast freeze where the sun is very limited. It's kind of cold because it's humid, even though the temperature is more mild, and people stay indoors more. And I actually got seasonal depression from living through the winter there because it goes on months without sun. But because I work remotely, I didn't think Vancouver was worth the price.